community of awesome, I'm Ava J and this is Bookish Pixie. So recently someone asked me if I'd be willing to make a vlog on writing and income. I think it's important to talk about because there are a lot of misconceptions that lead to inflated expectations when it comes to a writer's income, so here we go. Writers primarily get paid with advances and royalties. In the movies, whenever a writer protagonist gets a book deal, it's usually a super massive book deal in which they become insta-rich and they live happily ever after the end. Unfortunately, that's not really how reality works. One of the reasons there are so many misconceptions around a writer's advance is because they can range from nothing to really friggin' huge. But if we're talking about general advances in this day and age, they're usually on the lower end. Not only that, but writers don't usually get their advance all at once. Depending on how your contract is, you'll either get half of your advance upon signing the contract and half of your advance upon publication, or a third of your advance upon signing the contract, a third of your advance upon turning in the manuscript, and a third of your advance upon publication. Remember that the time between signing your contract and seeing your book published is usually between 1 to 2 years and sometimes even more. So let's do some example scenarios. In scenario 1, let's say your advance is $10,000. Now remember that $10,000 is actually more than a lot of advances, but for the sake of easy math, because I don't like math, let's go with $10,000. Okay, so great, you sold your book and you're getting $10,000. Now again, for the sake of easy math, let's say you have the two-way split so that I don't have to math out thirds. Okay, so great, you finally signed your contract, which means you're getting the first half of your advance, which means with a $10,000 advance, you're getting $5,000. But you're not really getting $5,000 because first you have to pay your hardworking agent who totally deserves their percentage. Agents usually take 15% of whatever you make. So with the $5,000 first half of your advance, you're going to take $4,250. Except you're not really getting $4,250 because if you meet the threshold of needing to pay income taxes, then you need to pay income taxes. So you can guesstimate you're going to get your first payment of somewhere under $4,250, which I'm not going to math out because income tax things vary, but that's your first payment. Upon publication, you will see the other roughly $4,250. But remember, you're not going to see that half of your advance that year. So if you don't sell any other books that year, that's your whole income for the year. Obviously, you cannot live off of $4,250 for a year, so you're gonna need another job. Well, let's do scenario 2. Let's say you got a better advance where you got $50,000, which sounds much nicer than $10,000. In theory, a $50,000 advance sounds like something you could live off of. But remember, you're not getting that full advance at once. So after you pay your agent and after you pay taxes, you're going to have for your first year's takeaway a little under $21,250. That's better, and you can probably live off of that depending on where you live if you're careful, but you're not exactly rolling in money. Now you're probably thinking, okay, Ava, that's fine, but that's just the advances. What about royalties? So here's the gist with royalties. Royalties are a percentage of the book sales that the author sees. However, you do not get royalties until after you've paid off your advance. In order to earn out your advance, your percentage of the sales, your royalties, which are usually somewhere in the rough ballpark figure of 10 to 15%, sometimes a little different, but somewhere around there, that percentage needs to equal out to your advance before you see any more money. The truth is, a lot of authors never earn out their advance, and so the only money they see is from the advance itself. And just so we're clear, if you don't earn out your advance, you don't have to give any of your advance back. It just means you're not going to be seeing any more money for that particular book deal. If you do earn out your advance, that's awesome. It means you're going to get royalty payments, but that's not something writers can rely on as an immediate and definite thing. This is why a lot of writers need to have second jobs, at least until they've been publishing long enough that their backlist is selling well enough that it all starts to add up. Making a living as a writer is a lot of hard work, and for a lot of authors, it takes a long time to build up until they're making enough money to just live off of their writing. Writers go into publishing because they love writing and they want to share their stories with the world. But if your number one priority is to just make a ton of money, you might want to go find another career path. So that's all I got for today. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and comment, and I'll see you guys next week.